Hello and welcome to part 2A. Finally, we have completed all of our meshes and we'll begin the rather, I think, more rewarding task of modelling our textures and actually seeing what they're going to start looking like in our game. We're going to be using an application called Substance Painter, which should make our life extremely easy. So let's get started. Here we have Substance Painter. Before I actually start talking too much about Substance Painter, I should tell you that this is a paid application, and I know that's going to put a few of you's head in your hands, and you're going to be thinking, "Oh, I've gone this far and now I've got to pay for it." Well, actually, it's not quite true because Substance Painter does have a 30-day free trial, and you can go and take a look, and obviously you can follow along by downloading that. I will provide the links in the description. I don't buy a lot of software. But the one thing I've always found difficult is texturing, and the process that you could use, via unwrapping, or perhaps using an application like GIMP, which I do own, or Photoshop, which again is paid, is laborious, difficult to manage and kind of see what you're doing. An application like Substance Painter allows you to see on the fly what you're actually editing. Here's one that I've been working on. It's taken me a little while. Okay, alright, I'll be honest, I'm not working on this. This is the sample that comes with Substance Painter. This is Substance Painter 2. It's just come out. It's been out about 3 or 4 days. I think it came out on Steam last night. I'm so happy with this application that I went ahead and purchased the upgrade despite having only had the old version 6 months. It's not without its quirks. I think some of it is a bit counterintuitive. I know they're working to improve it all the time. Their forums are excellent. Like I say, it's $150 for the cost, and I know sometimes they do sales, so keep your eyes out for those. And there's also an option where you can pay $20 a month, kind of a sort of a buy to own scheme, and you can stop at any time or keep paying until it's fully paid for. Okay, so that's my sales pitch out of the way. But you'll probably find that I do have the odd grumble along the way, and I know that Algorithmic are watching this, so maybe you could take some of it to heart. I think some of them are very quick wins as well. Do you recall back in the day when we had our base image? Let's just discard this, by the way. This isn't mine. This is actually an indication of what you can do. Let me just show you some of the other stuff that Substance Painter can do. These are all generated in Substance Painter. I mean, that's astonishing. I don't have the graphics card to create textures at that kind of resolution, but just to show you what you can do. Look at this. I mean, it's hard to believe that's even a computer graphic, isn't it? And things like this, kind of what do you call that, steampunk art. It's good stuff. It's really good for things where you need to create a slightly weathered effect. I find that's where this really shines, which is tough to do on things like GIMP and Photoshop. So back in the day, we had our base mesh, and you may recall from 1H, was it 1H, where we exported our FBX file. So we will just open that up. Apologies if I was going too quickly there. Leave the template alone, it'll just go for the default one. Select the mesh. We didn't create any normals. If you did create any normals, you can import them here. So then we just click OK. It'll take a few seconds. Compared to that beast with its many hundreds of thousands of polys, I think this has got about 100, right? So we're okay. Here we are. We can see our base. It looks rather dull at the moment. Now I'm going to give you a quick tour of how Substance Painter works. This is Substance Painter 2. It's not so different from Substance Painter 1, only in that it's got a few more features, and they've kind of changed the way they generate the weathered looks and the rust and the edges and stuff like that. Down here you've got what's called the shelf, and you've got your various shelf elements like your textures, your brushes, particle effects. They're things where you can create like a shot effect or some leaking, actual real particle leaks that will appear on the texture. Then you've got your materials. These are things that you can quite literally copy straight onto your mesh, and you can layer those on top of each other. Makes sense, doesn't it? And you've got smart materials, which are effectively the materials done for you, multiple layers, all done out for you. You can see there, bronze corroded and bronze statue. We'll go into this in a bit more detail later on. Over here you've got your layer stack, and like Photoshop and those types of applications, it's bottom to top, so the top one overrides the bottom one, and you can create folders in this, so you can have folders where there's certain areas that you've painted or textured. And down here you've got your brush settings. There's far too many for me to go through without making this a complete Substance Painter 2 tutorial, so we'll just kind of get hands on. I'm not an expert, so please go check out some of the tutorials. They're very, very good. They've got quite a few now. They're lacking a little bit in Substance Painter 2, so you might have to try and work out which one's which. I should say, this is at the time of making this video, which is March 2016. But maybe they'll have some more soon. Some of the cool stuff now is that you can actually put paint normals straight onto the mesh, and we'll go into that later on. Create those indents. Okay, so let's get started. Here we go. We've got our basic mesh here. One of the things I like to do is I find that they've got the scroll wheel in and out the wrong way around, so you can scroll wheel in and out to zoom in, but I find that that's the wrong way. I'm pressing forward and it's going out, and backwards it's coming in. I don't know whether this was there before, but under edit settings you've got your zoom wheel, and just inverse the direction on those two and click OK. And now if I up is zoom in and down is zoom out, that's better. The thing that I often forget to do is bake the textures. Now when you first load up a new mesh into Substance Painter, what it'll do is it will set up a bunch of what's called channels for you. Okay, these channels help it to generate certain effects, like the weathered edges, smoothing around certain edges, normal maps, etc., etc. So what we do before we even start doing anything is bake textures. Okay, you can see these guys here. I don't know what half of these do. I know that normal is obviously the normal map, the world space normal. ID don't know. Ambient occlusion map, okay, that's kind of the shading areas, isn't it? The curvature map, if you've got a curvatures, position and thickness. Okay, curvature we use a lot. The first thing I do is select the default size as 1024 by 1024, and then just click bake. Okay, this is something that I wish it would remind you to do when you first start, because the number of times I've cracked on and thought, hang on a minute, why isn't it working as I expect? Because it does sort of still work. This is the confusing thing. So we've baked our textures, and if you have a little look over here, obviously we've got a completely empty normal map. The interesting one is the curvature map, which you can't see. You used to be able to hover over and it would make it larger. That seems to have stopped working. But what that would show, in fact, perhaps if I do it down here. Where are you, curvature map? There it is. Okay, hover over. There we go. What that's done is that's looked at all the edges and worked out where the curves in and out are, and that'll allow it to create sort of some edge effects. I'm getting ahead of myself here. So let's start with laying down a very simple sort of concrete-looking colour for the initial base look. So what we'll do is this is a painting layer. What we do a lot of in Substance Painter is create fill layers, okay, and kind of layer them on top of each other and get them to do the work for us. So you can do that by clicking on this little bucket, I think you would have to say, add a fill layer. We'll click on there. And there's a whole bunch of settings here, okay. Skimming over this bit here for a second, although UV projection is worth talking about. This is how it applies the fill onto the mesh. If you do UV projection, it will kind of just project it and disregard any seams that you have. But if you do triplanar, it will try and merge the seams together. Generally speaking, triplanar projection is what I always go for. I've not really seen a reason to have UV projection. I think the filtering is how it does that triplanar projection or UV projection. And we'll come on to these in a minute. You can play with these settings. You'll see how they work. They're pretty straightforward. Now you may recall that when we baked all of our things here, they created these maps for us. So we've got a colour map, a metal material, I should say, shouldn't I? Channel is what they call them. Colour channel, a metal channel, roughness channel, a normal channel which is new, and a height channel, which are kind of the same thing, but they just allow you to do slightly different effects. So what I'm going to do to start is just unselect metal, rough, normal, and height, and we're just going to select a colour. Okay, and we just click here. I'm going to try and select something a little bit grey, but I don't want to go completely grey. If I just drag that, if I click dynamic, actually, I think it'll bring the colours up. I think I'm going to go for a kind of a ever so slightly orange, and go down. No, let's go this way, and then just drag that across until it's not too dark, somewhere about there, and we can just adjust the brightness here a bit until we're happy with a very simple base layer. Okay, we'll click OK. And there we go, we're done. Okay, we're not done, but we've started with our initial base, and now we'll start to make that a little bit more interesting. So let's just rename this, double click it, base color, done, and we'll add another fill layer. Panic, I think you might say, because it's disappeared, and it has, and the reason is because, like I say, these layers are one on top of the other. The best way, I'm going to call it the best way, a way to resolve this and kind of build up your layers, is to create a black mask. And what that will do, what a black mask does, is when everything, this black here, means that this is being applied to your, if I just press C, well, I can't remember which one it is, I don't know how you can see the unwrap, but it's being applied to your mesh. In fact, if I just do, hang on, plugins, view, where is it? It's 2D, 3D, it's one of these guys up here. Excuse me, it's one of the view ones. View, views, no, come on. 3D, 2D, there we go, here you go, you can see, if I click wireframe down here, does it, yeah, there you go, so you can see our mesh, our unwrapped mesh over here. I think you can actually, why has it gone dark? I know why, so you click on that. So you can see here that if you've got triplanar on, it will try and kind of cross these over here. Right, where was I? Yes, and this mesh, this here is applied to that unwrap. Right, sorry, I'm babbling away already. I told you I would. Let's now create another colour that we like. Look, I'm going to unselect wireframe again. Weird. I'm not sure that kind of hover over the mouse. Can you see that? The tick box sort of appears. I don't like that. Okay, right. What we'll do now is we will add a generator. And the way we're going to do that, actually, what I will do is I'll actually remove that mask, and we'll go to this new thing down here, which is new, called Smart Masks. Okay, this wasn't done like this before. You used to have just right-click Add Generator, but now it seems that you have all these masks. And I want to pick up a mask that's, you know, something like, you know, the sort of second layer. You'll see you can play around with these to find one that you like. Let's try dirt, and just dragging that in and popping it straight in there. Okay. We can see that it has created exactly what I'm after, which is a sort of mottled effect to the concrete. It's looking a lot more like concrete now, isn't it? It's looking very flat. We'll sort that out in a second, but I'm very happy with that straight off the bat. You can see there's a whole host of options here. I think it's the global ones you'll probably want to play with, but if you just start, you know, global balance adjusts how much dirt there is. It looks like the more you go for, the darker it gets. Global blur is probably going to blur stuff out. Yeah, that's quite neat, isn't it? You might want to layer one on top of the other, and so on. And you've got your textures that it's using down here. You can see this is a host. It's an overwhelming amount of information for just adding adding dirt, but it gives you an indication of just what you can do with this thing. I believe that I did do triplanar. Let's just have a quick look at the difference. It's not really making a lot of difference. Let's just click it on here. No, here it might be on the mask editor actually. There might be a triplanar option. If there is, I don't see it. Not to worry. Not to worry. It does look very flat, and the reason for that, I think, is because we need to click back to here and click on height, and then we'll get rid of normal, rough and metal, and then we'll just get this to adjust the height, and you can see it's only applying it to the what's showing through, if that makes any sense. I tend to find that it's very subtle. Go too far, look, that's what it looks like. It's very subtle. All of these height things are very low. Okay, we like that. Maybe even touch lower. It's a bit shiny. You can probably see that. So let's just add the roughness, and we'll just bring that up and make sure that the roughness, yeah, that's okay, that's okay. One thing you can do, by the way, on each individual layer, like I say, layers have channels, so you can see a layer's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 channels. It's got the color channel, the metal channel, and you've got these layer effects. So normal is quite literally overwriting the previous one. But if I go to, say, my height, then I can click on this, just this height channel. So if I click on here now and change this, it will change the height for that channel. Can you see? Just on that layer. So you've got that flexibility to adjust it. And you know, if you don't like it, then you can go to perhaps the color. You can click on here and just lower that down, up and down, and so the background goes through. You can see. I'm pretty happy with that. You can actually adjust these individually here as well, because I'm not layering it very. I'm not laying it within folders or anything like that. So you can do it one way or the other here. I like that. I'm going with it, people. I'm not liking that. Possibly a bit too much. So let's just change a couple of things, or shall I? Shall we leave it like that? I think if we can go back into here, mask generator, I think we can just click random here a couple of times. It doesn't seem to make any difference. Let's try this one. No. Let's just try adjusting the global balance so maybe it's not quite so harsh. That seems to be making it worse. Okay, I'm going to stick with it because I'm running out of time. I might just play around and see if I can make that a little less painful. Let's just go back to here and do what I was saying with the base color. Let's click on here. Let's try pass through. Let's just try a few options here. Linear dodge doesn't make a great deal of difference, but maybe if I just bring that down. No, I'm not hitting it straight away, so I'm going to leave it for now. Try and work on why that might be like that and how to fix it. Let's go back into the just regular view, 3D only. Okay, and now what we'll do is let's create some edges. Let's create some edge kind of dirt around here. So we'll create another fill layer. Add a fill layer. Again, same problem. We will we'll just go over to materials and just pick up a black. Just pick black. The black used to be there. It's not there. So we'll get rid of all of these, and we'll just create a base color black. Okay. And then we will get our smart masks, and one of these guys, like I say, bear with me, is probably the one we're after. Edge, not edge blur. Ground toe is great, by the way. It's going to be one of the edge ones. Not edge rust. Edge scratches. Let's just try bringing that in. There we go. Can you see now straight away? If I just click on that one again, it's created kind of edge griminess. I mean, it's not perfect. It really shows now how many verts we use for those cylinders that we didn't maybe use enough, but it's created. Oh, I don't like that shininess. We'll work on that in a second. But it's created dirtiness around this edge, giving it a really oldie look now, isn't it? And I'm gonna lower that down just by again making sure that the color channel is selected, and then just drag that, and I'm gonna make it linear dodge as well. No, I'm not. Pass through. Okay, and then just drag that down until you find something that's not quite so brutal. Okay, and you can play around with these settings until you know. If I click on here and here, there's all sorts of grunge amounts you can have. You see, you can get pretty serious. Grunge scale, change all this stuff around. Wear level. Look, oh, look at that! Wow, it's not perfect in many ways. It's edge smoothness, and you can make that less smooth. It looks like about there's right. What you can do as well, if you're not, if you're thinking, well, I want a bit there, and what you can do is you can actually click on here and then click Add Paint Layer. And if you click on the paint layer, that's slightly this. If I show you stencil opacity, drag that right down. See, that will actually kind of show that you're painting on it, but just drag that down, something sensible. Grab a brush and pick something like Dirt 3, and then you can go in there. Am I on paint? Yes, I am. And you can choose your grayscale levels, and the flow is actually the opacity, so maybe drag that down and just start drawing on there. I hate that. If you control right click, you can adjust the size and the hardness by the looks of it. There we go, adjust the size and then just start painting along. You can see it's just not good enough. The other thing you do is if you click and then hold shift and then click again, you see you can do painting things like that. Like I say, I would highly recommend you go and check out a few tutorials before you start listening to me babble on. I'm keeping this. I'm liking the way this is looking. Maybe a little too strong. This is the sort of thing that would show on multiple turrets, but let's not worry about it. What we're going to do now is start adding some. I'm going to call them decals, which are kind of some colour to it to make it look a bit more interesting. One of the cool new features is that we can go to orthographic view, and this allows us, if you like, a more flat view. I've never been able to explain this very well, but a very flat view on how to view your mesh. So if you hold Alt then Shift and then just drag the mouse, it will snap to the nearest XYZ. So if I just do Alt Shift click, you can see now. If I show you in perspective mode, it'll be a bit clearer. If I just now drag that over and then Alt Shift Alt right click, you can see that drags it across like that. But if I was in orthographic mode, and now I drag it, look, it doesn't show it never rotates it, which is handy if you want to use symmetry, which is exactly what we're going to do now. So let's just Alt Shift and then Alt middle mouse and drag, and we will add a new layer. But now we're not going to add a fill layer, we're just going to add a layer, which is a paint layer. Let's start naming some of these layers as well. Base color, we'll call that secondary color. This one I think we'll just call it edge dirt, shall we? Oh no, cancel that. Cancel. Edge dirt. We'll call this decals. Something like that. I don't know. I'm just making this stuff up. Okay, so we're on to the paint, if you like, kind of the paint layer. We are again going to go down here. We're not going to adjust the roughness, the metal, or the normal. We are going to make the height by dragging it to the far left. When you click it, it does a hole. Can you see that? Obviously, it's not a real hole. It's just a fake hole. And if you do it the other way, it should go up. Oink. Yeah, you can sort of see that, can't you? I've not to pick the best alpha for it, so let's zoom back out. Okay, and I've created a couple of alpha textures. Let's just go back up here. I will add the link. Please let me know if you want to use these, but by all means use your own. So I've called it inlet. Okay, let's just make that a bit bigger by control right clicking, and then we'll make this red. I've been using red as my color of choice on this thing. And also, if we go to the top back up here and click on this angle and change it to 45 degrees, you can, by the way, hold control and control up and down on the mouse does it, but that's not accurate, and it can be quite fiddly to get it right. That's another thing I'd like to see, is a snap tool when you're doing this stuff. Okay, so if I left click there, you can see that it's generated an indent. I hope you can see that. It looks like it's got an outdent. That's probably because yes, need to do that to the other side, and that's great. But if we're going to keep something close to accurate, we can enable this symmetry option here by just clicking on there, and it's on the x-axis. And again, we're in orthographic view. If we show you in perspective view, you kind of have to fiddle around in perspective to get it just right. You'll see that line going through moves left and right. But if you're in orthographic, did I click orthographic? F6. Now if I move it, look, that symmetry stays the same. And now watch this. Watch this. If I just click, the trick is to find it roughly in the right place. Bang! There it is. Now the one thing I would like, if Algorithmic are listening, is double symmetry, because we can now do it at the top. I'm going to have to change the angle to 135, and if you're wondering why I'm picking that, it's 90 degrees plus 45 degrees. And I'm just going to go over here somewhere, try and get it about the same place. How's that? I like that a lot. Okay. The other thing I've been liking to do is to stick a line here. So let's just do that again. I created an alpha for this somewhere. I think it was that one, line. So we'll just do Alt Shift to get it in position. I like this new orthographic mode. Set the angle down to 0. Control and then right mouse and move left and right to get it to the position. One useful thing you can do here is click on wireframe, and that will kind of give you some guides as to where you can put this. I think that's too big. Let's make it a bit smaller. I think something about there. And like I say, you won't have to do it more than twice. But we do have to click on the other axis now, which is Z. Okay, same rules apply. I didn't actually see whereabouts that was. It was bang on halfway, wasn't it? So let's. Another cool feature, but I don't know if you can see this, but as I move the mouse away and move it in, can you see that it's getting bigger and smaller? So it's actually tracking it, and this is really neat. Look, watch this. Look, when you drag it around, it follows the contours. There's some settings up here. It's these ones: alignment and size space. You can do to adjust whether you want that or not. I tend to want it, but it's not always perfect. You play around with those and just see if other things suit your needs. And we'll just click. There, okay, we're looking great, aren't we? This is still bugging me. Let's just turn off symmetry again. And just turn off wireframe. Come on. I mean, that looks a pretty cool looking base. How long have we spent on this? 20 minutes? And we are looking brilliant. I think that's a very respectable, particularly if, bearing in mind we're going to be about that far away from it. Yeah. When we actually see the game, or probably further than that, right? So we can get pretty close before we even have to worry about this thing not looking brilliant. How far do you have to get? I mean, I'm going to quickly save it actually. Let's just do file save. And we'll call it base.spp, Substance Painter. I don't know what the other P stands for. If one of the very cool things is I can actually click up here on the texture set and go to 2048, and it will regenerate it with a much higher density textures. Somebody explain to me why that's all. Can you see those jaggedy lines there? I'm not happy about that, but again, good luck spotting that from a distance. Particularly as those lines are straight in my F3, F2, F1. There we go. As these lines are straight, if we got a wireframe, yeah, those lines are bang on straight. There's no reason for that to be jaggedy. Okay, not to worry. F2, there we go. Right. I'm going to call this a done job because we're kind of working on speed here. Thank you, Substance Painter, for this application. I think it's absolutely brilliant, and I hope you agree that had we tried to do that in GIMP or Photoshop, it would have been a case of trying, retrying. I'm going to play around with this a bit to see if I can clean that kind of darker mouldy area there up, and I'll let you know how I get on. If I can't fix it, then we'll just move on to the next piece, which will be the stands, and that should be a nice quick process too. We'll perhaps we'll look into a few more features that this thing can do. We'll create some folders, maybe stuff like that. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'm working on a subscriber-driven model to kind of keep me motivated. I'm having a whale of a time here, and I'm looking forward to getting this coded in Unity. That's going to be a long process and a little way away yet, but we will get it done, I promise you. Thanks again for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one, which we'll be doing the stands. Thanks again. Cheers now. Bye-bye.